We are up. Before I bring to you today's episode, I wanted to do a few things. Number one, I want to introduce a contest. There's going to be two ways to win. What are you going to win? Well, this is a 7-panel Richardson 168 trucker cap with the Our Town Podcast logo and a color patch on the front. The one that I'm wearing right now is a Richardson 112, if you know your trucker caps, 6-panel hat, and it has a kind of an alternative color set. So I'm still experimenting with what I like when it comes to the color sets, and then ultimately I will open up a merch shop and I'll start offering these to anybody. But what I'd like to do is solicit your feedback in the form of comments or just feedback on the episodes in order to, number one, hear your feedback. Love to hear a little bit more from the audience on what you like, what you don't like. And then also just continuing to ask to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, wherever you're listening or watching. Do all of that so that the algorithms can get the show out to more people that might find it interesting, as you do. So what I want to do on the YouTube side, if you're the very first person to make a comment when episode 35 releases, you will win a hat. You will win this hat. Okay? Now, just to show you I have another one, here's another hat. So if you're not on the YouTube side and you're on the Spotify side, Apple, Google, Stitcher, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcast, go to my website. It's listed right there above my head, ourtownpodcast.net, and just hit the contact us, fill out the form, and leave your comment in that little description box and hit submit. So I will give a hat to the first person to comment through the website, and then I'll give a hat for the first person to comment on the YouTube side. Everybody else who comments will all win a sticker, and that sticker will look exactly like the logo that you see in the top left of the screen. That is my main logo. So I'm happy to do that. Now, let me just make a comment about this t-shirt that I'm wearing. It is from a superlative. I won the best all-around category when I was in 8th grade at Herndon Intermediate School in Herndon, Virginia. And two ladies that used to work for me on my old program found out about that somehow, and they made this shirt, and it was given to me as a parting gift before I moved to Huntsville. So it is not just because I'm trying to be braggadocious. And, related to that, I am trying hard I would love to wear a different t-shirt for every episode. I can't necessarily run it by my wife or get her approval to buy a new t-shirt every episode. It's not really in the budget, not the smartest thing I can do with my money, particularly when I have 4 kids and 2 in college and 2 in high school. But I forgot about this shirt because it was kind of mixed in with the other black t-shirts in my closet. And I decided, I should wear this. But I just wanted to provide us a little bit of background, a little context to that. Today's episode is fantastic. Jessica Brown is here from First Stop, which is it's not a homeless shelter. She's going to describe it as a nonprofit that's the services and resources that they provide meeting the homeless where they are at in this community. It is a touching story, not just for the things that First Stop does, but you are going to hear her describe being pregnant, a teenager, and being homeless herself. So there is a huge level of empathy that Jessica brings to her job. So I hope you enjoy it, and don't forget to make the comment, and congratulations to all you winners. And we are up. This is episode number 35 of the Our Town Podcast. Last night, we had John Kinsley in here from a retired colonel in the United States Army, and we recorded episode 34, which was the day after Halloween. And here I sit across from Jessica Brown, who is a resource development manager at First Stop, and I'm going to let her describe First Stop because I think it's very important how you describe it. There's some semantics in there. I think every word is kind of important as to what First Stop is and as to what First Stop is not. But so here we are, November 2nd, 2022. This episode will post, I believe, November 16th, if that's a Wednesday, somewhere around there, whatever Wednesday there is of that week, 16th or 17th, it'll post then. So Jessica Brown, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You excited to be here?
Excited and nervous, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of a drive getting over here to Madison.
No, not bad. I got to enjoy the sunset, so that was pretty.
Okay. What color was it?
Orange.
Good. Well, I don't know. I haven't. So people are going to notice. I didn't mention this at all last night. I have a bandage on my arm, and my leg is all bandaged up. I'm recovering from some second-degree burns. We'll leave it at that. Don't want to embarrass the parties that were involved. So I haven't really been outside to see a sunset, to see a sunrise, to drive a car. It's been a while. So, yeah, we do have some magnificent sunsets, though, in Alabama.
Yeah, it was nice. And it was nice driving straight towards it on the way here. It was a different perspective than I normally get to see.
Yeah. So how was your day at First Stop?
It was good. I have been kind of playing catch up. We had our annual dinner on October 20th. And so all of my time and energy had been going towards that. And then I've been in kind of a hustle, writing grants and working on things for our end of year push and our capital campaign. So busy.
Yeah, so as a note and kind of a shout out, you're going to see we're on what I call the guest promotion screen, and you're going to see the slideshow, and there should be more than a few from the dinner. Can you talk more about that? Let's just kind of start there. Actually, no, we need to step back a little bit. Let's provide a little context. So rather than saying homeless shelter, that's what First Stop is not.
That is correct.
So in your words, and I actually have some stuff that we can pull up from your website as well, but can you kind of accurately describe the important function that First Stop provides?
Absolutely. So First Stop is a homeless services organization that serves people in the Huntsville area. And what we do is kind of in three different facets. So we have an encounter part of what we do, which means we send our staff out into the camps and in the streets where people live, unsheltered, homeless. And that is social workers and our outreach team. We pair with mental health professionals and medical professionals to kind of do a triage assessment of what do these people need, why are they homeless, and what is the root of that homelessness, and kind of see what they need to get from point A to point B and to build relationships and build trust. So the first part of that is there are a lot of people in that situation that they don't trust anybody and they really need help getting out. And so we say, okay, we're here to help. What can we do? We maybe give a few basic necessity items and then we direct them to our day center. Our day center is where we really connect people to resources. So that means we have showers, we have daily meals, we have laundry services, we help with prescription medication. If someone has urgent prescription medical needs, it's really difficult to move to the next step of where am I going to live when it's how am I going to live until tomorrow. So we make sure all of those things are taken care of and they go to our day center to be able to access those resources. And then from our day center, we have our last part of what we do, which is empower. And we have full-time social workers that will work with people on an individual basis to kind of, again, assess why they're homeless and the reasons behind it, and to create an individual service plan that says, this is how we are going to get Frank, this particular one person, from point A to point B. So everything we do is with the goal of helping a person exit homelessness. It is, we're very big on the idea of empowering, not enabling. So we're very different from a homeless shelter because this is where someone goes during the day. A lot of our clients, maybe are unsheltered homeless. They're living in the camps and on the streets. So they're that really, really urgent, vulnerable subset of the population. And so when I first was introduced to First Stop, I thought that was a really, really unique part of what they did. There are a lot of organizations that focus on the important comfort aspects. What are we doing to keep these people safe and comfortable? But First Stop says, what are we doing to get people out of homelessness? And I saw that and I said, wow, okay, that's that's a really neat perspective. And I became, a donor and a supporter, and kind of fell in love with the organization and that approach.
Yeah, so I was showing, as you were talking, I had your website up where you have featured Encounter, Connect, and Empower, which I think are fantastic when you think of this, the cycle, right, or the life cycle. Let's do this. Let's go to, it's Reverend, is he your founder? What's his name? Reverend Barnard? I'm gonna play a video.
Okay.
And this should help a little bit. I just want to use the materials that you all have, right, as you describe things, and you're certainly a representative, but just to call attention, right, for people that are watching this, to draw them to your website, right, and consume these resources. So let's give this a listen for just about a minute.
First stop is a special place in Huntsville, located on a street most people don't know about, Stokes Street. It's just a couple of blocks from Campus 805, but in many ways, it's a world away. During the week, rain or shine, this place comes to life with teams of staff and volunteers serving meals and reaching out to our homeless community each day. First Stop is here to serve the homeless community in Huntsville, to provide a safe and supportive environment.
There are so many great agencies in Huntsville that are here to help the homeless community, and I think one of the things I love about First Stop is really the unique place that we fit into all of this, because we really are working with an individual, kind of the whole continuum of kind of finding them and encountering them where they might be living, in the camps and in the streets, and just taking them and walking the journey with them.
I've been out with
Let's stop right there, and probably we'll come back to that. A lot to unpack there. So first and foremost, there's the old location, kind of current location on Stokes.
Yes.
And the new building will also be there on the same...
On the same plot of land, correct.
Okay. So they've demolished, they've done the demo, they've gotten rid of the old facility.
Yes.
Making way for the new.
Yes. And that's really, really important because, we all know that Huntsville is growing, and we're all really proud. I think everyone in Huntsville is really excited to talk about, we are growing. We're the largest city in the state of Alabama. But there's a lot to unpack with that. And part of that is when the population grows, the homeless population grows. And that creates kind of a unique challenge for our area. And, we have a smart city. We're in a city of rocket scientists. So we can come up with a solution to this challenge. And we can say, okay, as a growing city, we know that our population is going to continue to rise. What can we do now to make sure that we don't face the same issues that we see in Mobile or Birmingham or Atlanta or Nashville? How can we take care of this problem in a sustainable way now? And that's what about having a larger facility to be able to serve the homeless population is about for us, is growing with that issue. Huntsville's homeless population has grown by almost 30% in the last 5 years.
Really?
Which is big. That's a big jump.
Now, when did you come to First Stop originally?
So I began interning with them in August of 2020, which was quite a year, and was hired into this current role September of last year.
Of 21.
Of 21, yeah.
And you
So 2
graduated
years.
college in 2020, in December.
Yes.
Right? So you got the job, or started interning before you finished, and then got full-time in September 21.
Well, in September 21, I was still, so I'd finished my internship, and I pretty much said, hey, I love this organization. Do you want to keep me here? I think I'm doing a good job.
Right.
And so I stayed on part-time, just doing really anything that needed to be done. All the grunt work, I'll help with reception. I was doing mail stuff. I built a database, all the things. And I stayed on part-time until last September, when I've kind of moved up a little more hours each time. Because I've been, I'm a single mom, and I've been a full-time wedding photographer for almost 14 years. So
Wow.
adding another job to the pile is a lot.
Yeah, I was just about to ask. So while you were staying on and hoping to get the full-time job, you're a photographer, but were you doing other part-time jobs as well to make ends meet, or just the
Nope.
photography?
Yeah, the photography has been my bread and butter for a long time, and I've been really, really grateful that that's been able to sustain me, especially as a single income household. I'm very lucky.
Yeah. What's the name of you have an LLC? around that?
It's Moonbelle Photography.
Moonbelle. Cool.
Kind of whimsical.
How'd you come up with that name?
There was actually an older movie called Paper Moon that I liked that I originally wanted, but some other photographer back in 2008 in North Carolina had that name. So I took several years of French class, and the way that Spanish and French language works, you put the descriptive word or the adjective.
So like Bella Luna.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So it's beautiful moon
Okay.
in French.
Is it Belle? Okay.
Yeah.
Look at that. How did I know that? I have no idea. It just seemed to fit. That's cool. And so are you still doing that now? Are you still doing?
I am. Yeah. I've cut down to about 20, 25 weddings a year. Just so I can focus more time on First Stop and, manage a teenager.
Yeah.
But it's really great. Yeah. And it's allowed me the flexibility to be able to dive into nonprofit work, which has been very meaningful.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I met you at a Trash Pandas game.
Yeah.
Right. It's hard to, now that the whole season's come and gone, and we went to several games as a family. I went to a couple games with just the kids, sometimes some games just with coworkers. And then there were also business mixers that they hosted. So sometimes it kind of runs together. But we were at a game, met you, we were talking, and I think at that time I had scheduled John Allen, the CEO of the Committee of 100, and I was telling you about it. And I think your comment, and I even probably mentioned it in the episode with him, was, well, why would you want to interview me? I'm not the CEO. But hearing your story, and we'll get to your story later, of being a single mom and raising your boy, to me, everybody has a story, right? And anybody should be able to come on this program and tell their story, because it can be very inspiring to those that are watching. Let's go back to the facility. How big was the old one that was just torn down? Do you know, like in square footage?
Oh man, it's on our website. I don't know the exact numbers. I typed them into the website myself.
That's fine.
But I can tell you we are more than doubling the square footage. That includes the offices that we'll be able to have for staff. We'll have a dedicated space for mental health professionals on site, medical professionals on site, a space that can be used as a flex room for veterans, assistance organizations, and, Aetna and insurance companies and all these places that want to come together for the homeless community. And that's really cool because, if you think about if you were an unhoused person and you were trying to get your resources, how difficult that must be to bounce around from place to place to place just to get what you need to get to the next step. That's so many barriers. So this removes those barriers and puts them all under one roof so we can focus on really helping people, which I think is important.
Right. So centralizing those services.
Yes.
So one natural question is, during the pandemic and post-pandemic, it doesn't seem like you can effectively manage something like First Stop where everyone's working remotely. You really do need to be on site. And it's not necessarily to make it advantageous to those workers, but it's to those that are unhoused, right? And I think you were just touching on that, how difficult it would be if they have to go across town for this and across town for that, when really they don't have that ability to do so.
Yeah, exactly.
Are there other kind of lessons learned that came out of the pandemic that you guys are applying to the way you do business and the way you do outreach?
I think just being really understanding of the mindset that people are in, especially when we were talking about, going through a pandemic and we're working with organizations that are offering a vaccine, and just explaining to people that this is your choice, and really giving them all of the options and all of the information so they feel like, just like any person, they are entitled to make a decision. And again, back to empowering people, giving people all the information and tools they need to make decisions. So whether that's their health decisions or decisions moving forward in their lives, it was really cool.
Let's talk about the team. I'm going to bring up the your website. You can look to your right, or you can look over my head to either monitor. And because one of the questions I have is, are all of the people that we're showing here able to have offices or a desk in the new space?
So some of our staff has changed a little bit. We've gotten some new staff members, but
There you are.
there's me. Yeah, so everyone there was nobody that worked remotely during the pandemic. I mean, we were considered in the what do they call it? We were essential workers since
Yeah.
we worked with the homeless. That's not something you can really take time off of. So
Sure.
in some cases, when we had to spread out, that meant that we had lunch served outside. We had case management meetings in these little tents outside, just like they do with outreach when they go out to the camp. So it was kind of unique how they were doing it. And I think everyone is really glad we're all inside buildings again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool. But I mean, we made it work because you have to.
Sure. So let's talk about and Mayor Battle touched on it. I don't know if it was, I'm getting it confused now what I've just played versus the stuff I was doing in research, right? Getting ready for this. But let's talk about the different, if you will, classifications of those that encounter homelessness. Can you talk through, and part of this is, were you surprised as you've kind of had these associations now and you have firsthand, frontline experience with them on just what are those situations and conditions that lead someone to being kind of homeless? Is it possible to talk about some of the categories of, hey, they're really young and they just didn't get a chance to get started, or they were middle-aged, they lost everything? Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So there are a few different ways that we tend to discuss homelessness. So we have what we'll say is sheltered and unsheltered homelessness. Most of the time when you think of a person that is homeless, you think of an unsheltered homeless person, a person sitting under a bridge or on the side of the road. And that is a person that goes back to their tent or their tarp or their makeshift shelter every single night to sleep. Sometimes it's behind an air conditioning unit. It could be anywhere. Then we have people that stay in the shelters every night. The shelters come with conditions. Normally there's a time period of about 90 days. Sometimes that's a condition of sobriety. Sometimes it means you can't bring your stuff. You can't bring your pets. You can't bring kids. You have to separate from your loved one, males and females. So that's a lot for some people to be able to adhere to. We also have, where someone is chronically homeless, meaning someone has been homeless several times over a stretch of years, or this is a one-time episodic issue. So you'll see a lot of that, especially when the pandemic hit, where, let's say someone's out of work for a little bit, and then, that rent still comes due. They get evicted from their house. They don't have anywhere to go. They sleep in their car gets impounded. And all of a sudden, they find themselves homeless. And even couch surfing is homeless. And a lot of people don't realize that. But when you don't have a mailing address, when you don't have an actual place to call home, you are homeless.
How often have these people exhausted their ability to reach back out to close family and friends? Because that naturally anybody who's casting judgment, right, and very unfounded, right, and you don't have all the facts and all the information, and will say, I don't understand why that person couldn't reach out to friends and family. The reality is, I would imagine, not everybody has somebody to reach out to, or they're a stage in life where, their family's in Washington State and all of a sudden now they're in Alabama, and that makes it very difficult, right, to even get back across the country. But can you talk about that? Are the lion's share of those that are unhoused, have they virtually tapped out of all the potential reach back that they have with family, friends?
So it's kind of a mixed bag there. In a lot of cases, people are vulnerable and isolated because they don't have those relationships anymore, whether it's someone who is, let's say, younger and maybe they've been disowned by their families, or maybe they have an addiction issue with drugs or alcohol, and they've really stressed those family and friend relationships to the point that, those people aren't speaking with them right now. And you see a lot of that and a lot of those things kind of mixing together in the homeless community with mental health, with addiction and substance abuse. And that's a strain on relationships. And a lot of people, that will say, maybe they're originally from Milwaukee or California or, what have you, and they just don't have people to go to anymore. So part of what our case managers do when talking to someone is ask them, who is your network? Who can we get you back in touch with? Do you have a brother, a father, a sister? And kind of work on those relationships and see if we can get a network back. Because something that's important is it is not as simple as just putting someone in a house. If it is, we would not have, the same issues with homelessness that we do now. It's about creating that support system.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure someone is successful when they are housed again, which means building that back up, which means giving them those resources and tools and mending those relationships. So we work on that.
Is some of it just pride, where it's just difficult for them based on whatever situation they've ended in, or embarrassment based on whatever their standing used to be with their family and their inability to reach back out?
Absolutely. I will say in my late teens, there were a few instances, but I was unhoused. At one point, it was because I was evicted. I wasn't taking great care of the place that I was living in, and I didn't have a place to live. And I couch surfed for a little bit. For about 6 weeks, I stayed in a friend's parents' addition they were building on, but it didn't have a fully closed-in ceiling, so it was really cold. I did not want to tell anyone. I didn't want to go anywhere for resources or help or...
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. And it's definitely a pride thing. I can see that. The stigma that comes with someone saying that they're homeless or unhoused, there are a lot of assumptions that come with that. And that's really part of what we are trying to battle every day, is showing, this person is not their circumstances. This happened to a person. And at the end of the day, this person is who we're helping, and really helping people see beyond the circumstances and to connect.
Where were you in the country when that was going on for you?
I was in Huntsville.
That was in Huntsville.
And then Arab for part of it.
Wow. So you can certainly bring a certain level of empathy, right, to these folks. Now, is that something that when you went into interning in 2020, in September of 2020, and how many years ago was it that you became housed again?
This was in 2007. It was 3 times in 2007.
Okay. Did that, from the 2007 till then, was that something where you felt like you wanted to give back somehow, some way to the homeless community?
Honestly, no. I never connected the dots. I didn't put it together. 2020 was a rough year for all of us, but
Yeah.
I had a really hard time that year. I'd been taking care of my grandmother. She is my best friend. I moved her out from California to come live with me because she'd gotten diagnosed with cancer. And 2 years taking her to appointments and everything. And I went through a divorce during that time period. And in early 2020, we were told that she was cancer-free. She got her scans and it was great. And then a month and a half later, she died very suddenly.
I'm so sorry.
It was hard. And, my son was there. We were both in the room when it happened. It was very sudden. And then 2 days later, the world shut down for COVID.
Wow.
And so
she died March 14th, March 13th?
She died on the 15th.
On the 15th.
And it was, I was lost. And I had been going back to school. I'd been working really hard. I'd been going back to school for psychology and sociology and wanting to give back. I wanted to do social work. I had been interning. I worked at Crisis Services. I did the hotline work for a little bit. I worked at Bradford Substance Abuse Recovery Center, just trying to find something that felt right. And I'd connected with First Stop. They used to have a garden program, and they had a little tent at the Green Street Market. And so I used to go there. I'd get a plant. I'd donate as much money as I could give to them. But I really loved what they did. And I went to them one day and kind of aggressively, cheerfully introduced myself and said I'd really, really like to be an intern. And they let me be there. And honestly, that is what saved me. It gave me a sense of purpose, and I really felt something I connected with. And it sounds crazy, but until I started working there, it never even connected for me that, 3 times during 2007, I was homeless. because I didn't want to use that word.
And that was, if I'm doing my math right, that's about the time your son was born?
I was pregnant, yes.
You were pregnant. Do you mind, if you don't mind, let's just go ahead and dive into this as far as what was this, kind of that circumstance that led you to become homeless. And, share whatever details you want, or if you even need to go back a little bit further to provide context, but if you don't mind just kind of sharing your story.
So the first time, I think it was actually right before I'd found out I was pregnant, and I was just young and dumb. I didn't take great care of my surroundings, and we got evicted. My boyfriend and I, we got evicted from the place that we were living at.
And this was here in Arab?
This was in Huntsville.
In Huntsville, okay.
And so I kind of scrambled to try to find a place to live, and that's when, and maybe it was a few weeks that time. And let me see. Then later in the summer, I found out I was pregnant in maybe the beginning of May that year. And later in the summer, I was living in some not great apartments because that's what you can afford at 19.
Yeah.
And it was on the second floor, and our air conditioning went out. And it's July, it's hot, it's Alabama, the air conditioning's out. We're getting our rain all the time, so there's mold growing up the walls, and they won't fix it, and they don't have to, because some apartment complexes are like that, and they take advantage of young people.
Right.
And so I left, but I kept paying that rent because they told me that it would, they'd go after my credit if I didn't. So I couldn't afford another place. So I slept on a friend's couch from...
And the boyfriend's not in the picture?
No, it became...
So this is all on you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, so I slept on a friend's couch from July, August to October. And then I got a place to live, a really expensive house for a 19-year-old. I really overdid it, and was working about 60 hours a week trying to make things work so I could make things happen. At that time, my family had not come around to the idea of having a pregnant teenager. Was not their ideal. So nobody was talking to me. So I did not have the family support. I didn't have the network.
Now, were they here local, or were they in Kansas?
They were local.
They were local. Okay.
So nobody was talking to me. I did not have those resources. I didn't have anyone to reach out to say, hey, I need help. And at that point, they'd already told me they didn't want me in their lives, and I was really proud, and I was going to do this on my own.
Yeah.
So I stayed on that friend's couch. I got a nice house, a rental off of Bailey Cove. And I was really, really proud of myself. And then I got myself into a bad situation of the person I had chosen to partner with. And just a person with some anger and violence issues. And it was dangerous. And he left and ended up taking up all the money, running up credit card bills. I had bought him a car and a co-signed on a phone, all the things. So I was thousands and thousands of dollars in debt. I was evicted right before Christmas. My landlords were very sweet, and they felt so bad for me. So they let me stay in until after Christmas, even though I hadn't paid. I didn't know that the rent hadn't been paid for months. I'd been working and turning in the money, but it hadn't been paid for months.
I see.
And or for the 2 months we'd been there. And so they let me stay. And then right after New Year's, I moved in and stayed in someone's guest room for a little bit. And then I had my son.
And this was 08 or 07?
I had my son in January of 08.
08, okay. And then from there, how do you pick yourself up day by day? You're a new mother. You're trying to take care of your newborn, plus take care of yourself.
Well, this is the thing, and this is how I realize, I am very lucky, and not everyone that we see has this. My mom did eventually come around and step back up and let me move in with her and help me get on my feet. My grandma flew out from California, where she lived, and I hadn't been at my job long enough to be able to have maternity leave. So she paid my bills for 8 weeks so I could stay home and have a maternity leave with my son because she felt like that was important, and helped me because I hadn't changed a diaper. I didn't know what I was doing. I hadn't been around a baby. I mean, I was a baby. So she was amazing. She helped me. My family stepped up, and I would not have been able to survive otherwise. And even then, I was really broke. And I got by on WIC, using the little WIC coupons to buy everything. I saved change and ate a lot of ramen. I mean, I sold my plasma.
Yeah.
Which sounds crazy now. I carpooled from Arab to Huntsville to sell plasma, and you have to wait for several hours for the chance, and sometimes they say come back tomorrow. So
Really?
it was for like $30.
So you have the baby, you have your son. Was it just a matter of days before your mom and your grandma and others kind of warmed back up to you? Was it just a matter of showing pictures and, here's your grandson?
For my mom, I think it was knowing that that partner was out of the picture. She didn't agree with the whole thing, and I think I think something clicked then, and she was like, oh, I have a grandchild, and kind of came back in, and that was really, really nice.
How's your relationship now with your mom?
It's good. Yeah,
That's
it's
good.
good. We had some healing to do for a little bit, but we talked it out, and it's good. And honestly, my grandma getting sick was a big one. She, I think my mom's a big world traveler, and I think she was in Norway or somewhere, and I had to call her on WhatsApp when I was out visiting my grandmother in California to let her know of the cancer diagnosis, and I had to do all the family alerts and everything. And the whole family came together after that, and I think that is something really positive that came out of it. Is we are stronger. And she actually just retired earlier this year, and moved to Spain. So she is living her best life.
So just to kind of play that back, your grandma passes away. You become the central communicator or hub of communication, right, for your family. And no matter whatever their feelings were before, you're having that more frequent communication with them, and that kind of helps to repair some of those relationships. Is that accurate?
Yeah. And we connected. It was really right when she was diagnosed. So we were all tied together for about 2 years, and it was good.
Let's kind of go all the way back then a little bit and talk about your upbringing. It looks like you lived in California, you lived in Egypt, you lived in Kansas.
Yeah.
What took you to all these varied places?
So my dad, he's my stepdad, but he's my dad, is a lieutenant colonel, or was, I guess he's retired, but you're like
always a lieutenant colonel.
You're always a lieutenant colonel.
That's
is
right.
what I've learned, in the Army. And so, we were living in Southern California at the time, and he met my mom. They had a big wedding, big wedding up in the mountains in the snow in Big Bear. And then we moved to Cairo, Egypt. After that, he worked on the embassy, and we lived there for about 2 years. And then off to Kansas.
How was Egypt?
Pretty cool. Apparently, so I was young, which I confused Cairo with Agrabah a lot, like from Aladdin.
Okay.
And so we would be driving, because you have a driver when you're going around the city. And so we'd be going to the commissary and going across town, and apparently every time where's Jasmine? Where's Jasmine? And my mom is like, please stop. I mean, we would ride horses by the pyramids every week, every Saturday. It was great. They let you get very close with animals at the zoo. We have pictures with cobras around our necks. I mean, it was.
And you were going to school there?
Yes. So Cairo's kind of unique in the way that it didn't have a military base like a lot of places. So there was not an English speaking hub. We lived in a big, tall apartment building in the city, with a few other American families, but not on a base. So the only school that we had that spoke English was a British school. So we went to a British school, where I got a really cool accent for 2 years before they put me in speech therapy when we went back to Kansas. And I still feel like my entire high school experience would have been better and different if I had kept that.
Well, and not just the accent, but I'm sure you picked up some just vocabulary or words you would prefer to use
Well,
from the British English.
the vocabulary is actually why I was put in speech therapy. So we we got back
Okay.
to this. We got back to the States, and I went to my teacher. It's like first or second grade, and I asked the teacher for a rubber,
Geez.
which means eraser.
Yeah, yeah. And you went to the principal's office.
Which I never got in trouble. I never got in trouble. But
So what grades were you in over there? This was like middle school?
no, it was younger than that.
Younger,
So
okay.
it was like right before first grade.
Okay. And it just was your your stepfather in the military and he was assigned there, or he had been retired and
No, he was in the Army.
he was in the Army? Okay. And he was just on assignment there. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. That's always awesome to talk to people that have lived overseas. In fact, just last night talking to former retired colonel in the Army, John Kinsley, he was making that comment. If there's any way you can to live overseas and to have that experience, you got to do it. You know, it's just type thing, mostly for the appreciation of other cultures and just kind of, you know, just be a little more educated, a little bit more thoughtful of other people, right? Other countries,
Oh, yeah.
other languages. So then you come to Kansas, Fort Leavenworth. Mm-hmm. And that must have been a little bit of a shock, right? To go from Egypt to Kansas.
I mean, I think I was young enough that that move didn't bother me at all. You know, it was fine. I liked that we lived in a neighborhood with trick-or-treating.
There you go.
We were at, we could find Christmas trees, which, as you can imagine, is really hard to find in Cairo. We had a kind of a Charlie Brown situation for Christmas.
Keep the same one for the next year.
Yeah. And then we had, in Fort Leavenworth, we lived down the street from the horse stables. So I could just walk to the horses, which was pretty great. So it was nice. I think overall, I really, really loved it.
Sure. So let me just ask you this: when you were homeless, are those times that you thought to yourself, and when you're kind of in those moments of maybe beating yourself up, how did I end up here? I used to live on a base, right? These military bases, and we had drivers, and we had, you probably had some servants, if you will, in the house, right? A cook and that kind of stuff. Did that kind of stuff affect you at all in any way?
I mean, I would say yes, because there's that sense of shame that goes with it. I mean, I was raised in I'd say upper middle class family, very privileged upbringing. I'm very, very lucky in that way. But to find myself a pregnant teenager that doesn't have a place to live was a rude awakening.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was a lot of like beating myself up about it and saying, how did I get there? Why did I get here? You know, what were the turns? How do I even see my way out of it? Mm-hmm. You know, not to mention all the hormones that come along with pregnancy that make that more emotional and challenging.
My wife's in the studio, and with our first one, it was Roy Rogers. I don't know if you know what Roy Rogers is. It's a fast food restaurant. Mm-mm. And they had roast beef. They would have like burgers, and they also had roast beef. And they had some sort of roast beef sandwich. I think it was called the Gold Rush sandwich, and it had some sort of sauce on it. And when she was pregnant, at least with our first, we lived about a half mile from a Roy Rogers, and she would be like, I want 2 Gold Rush sandwiches right now. And I would just rush to the car and go through the drive-thru and bring back these sandwiches because she was having such cravings. And I didn't mind it because I was eating a lot of fast food back then. So it was a good cheeseburger or whatever for me and some fries. What were some of your cravings?
I think the only one I really had was movie theater nachos.
Oh.
Like very specifically like movie theater nachos.
They had the best cheese.
Yeah, with the cheese and the jalapenos. That was a weird one. Other than that, I was very, very sick during my pregnancy.
Oh, really?
I forget what it's, hyper something gravitas. I can't remember the name, but I weighed 10 to 15 pounds less after I had my son than, before I got pregnant. I was very thin. And he was fine. You know, he comes out 8.5 pounds. He's good.
Yeah.
But I looked crazy. So I just couldn't keep anything down. I had to have things very, very plain, no sauce. It's like the opposite of the way I eat. It was weird.
plain. That goes against your nachos.
I know. Well, that was a weird one. I needed movie theater nachos
Yeah.
specifically.
So what's your son's name?
Kieran.
Kieran.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's how tall is he now? And he's a big, healthy, strong boy.
He's like 5'11". He's tall. He surpassed me.
He's only 15 and he's 5'11".
He's not even
He's only
15
15.
yet.
He's
Yeah,
14.
he's going to be 15 in January. It's crazy.
Does he play sports?
No, he did. He played soccer for a little bit, which was cool because I was like a soccer mom. But mostly he's into anime. He likes art, game design stuff. He's really into Roblox and playing playing games online with his friends and talking on Discord.
Sounds like my two boys on the other side of this wall. There's two gaming computers, right? And one of them loves Roblox. I think for one Christmas I bought one of them each of them like $100 gift card or
And
something.
it goes fast.
And he like it was gone in 5 minutes.
Yeah. It's like, really?
And all the other kids were making fun of him and then he was upset because now he didn't have any money.
Yeah.
Because they all chose to think a little bit
Yep.
more smartly about how they would use the money. How did you choose the name Kieran?
I have no idea. It's so weird. I woke up one day and I was like, Kieran. I tried to figure it out. I'm a big reader. I read a lot and I read very, very quickly. So I looked back through my books to see if I picked it up one of there. I looked in the baby name books I have. I have no idea.
Let me see if I can. I'm going to try and spell it. I don't know. I've never asked you this. Kieran.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
I got it?
Yes.
To me-
Just like it sounds.
Yeah. To me, it's almost, is it Scottish?
The closest is Gaelic. There's a Kieran. Which is Gaelic. Yeah.
Kieran. I got it.
You got it. No one gets it. It gets so butchered.
I knew a guy named Keir growing up. Keir Miller. Shout out to
cool.
Keir Miller. I haven't seen you since I was 16, but it is what it is. And I just figured I'll just throw on the IAN at the end.
Yeah.
All right. So then, I am duly impressed though with your ability to pick yourself up. Looking at the information you shared with me, you went to Sneed Community College. Mm-hmm. Where is that in Kansas?
No, it's in like Gunnersville.
Oh, that's
or
here?
Boaz or something like that. But it's the one that I went to Arab High School for my high school, and so
Okay.
that's the one that I was a big nerd. And I was super excited about going to college early. And so you could do this dual enrollment thing if your grades are high enough. And so my senior year, most of my classes were Sneed. And so I felt very cool because it meant that I could go to school at a later time and, walk in and then come back to my high school classes and be like, oh, I was in college all day.
So your father was transferred to the Arsenal?
No,
Or-
he actually retired before we came down here, so my mom could do a career move. She was the director of systems engineering at Teledyne Brown for a long time, and then a bunch of other places. Like, I feel like in Huntsville contracting world, everyone bounces around. So I lost track, but she was there for a while.
Yeah, I moved from Virginia, and Huntsville is very similar in the defense industry.
Yeah.
Right, where we kind of bounce around from contract to contract, and it happens. Sometimes it's not even your choice.
Yeah.
It just happens to you, and you've got to find something else. Okay, so that's what brought you all to Arab.
Mm-hmm.
You went to Arab High School. So then, and I apologize. I've only lived here 10 months, and I didn't do enough research, and people are going to be mad at me if I didn't know where Sneed College was. I just didn't know. I assumed it was somewhere else, but it's here near Gunnersville. So then, but then later, you continue. You didn't go to school. I guess there was a good 10-year period, or almost 10 years.
So right out of high school, I went to Calhoun, and I went until I found out I was pregnant, and then I kind of freaked out when I found out I was pregnant and missed all my finals. So I got incompletes, which stinks because my GPA was awesome. And then I tried going back to school when my son was born, but with working full time and driving, it was just too much and I couldn't do it. So then there was about a 10-year gap before I decided to go back to school. And, I was doing well in my photography business. But wedding photography is very physical.
Mm-hmm.
And after a long time of having, 8 to 11-hour days, or sometimes South Asian weddings where I'm shooting for 16 hours straight, you're like, maybe I'm not going to be able to do this forever.
Who was taking care of Kirian when you went on a shoot?
Well, I was married for a
Okay.
while, so it was my husband, or when my grandma was living with me, her, or, sometimes friends. It kind of takes a village. So whoever was around me, I have so many people that helped over the years.
Okay. So you, at what point was it before you got married that you got yourself back into a situation where you had your own home, your own place to live, or did that kind of come with the marriage?
So once I got out of my mom's house, I was pretty self-sufficient in like apartments or little houses. I mean, they were not nice. I stayed in some pretty dumpy places over the years until I bought my home in, what was it, 2013. I bought my home, and my grandma actually helped me with the down payment. And that's why I was able to do it.
Yeah.
And she helped me putting her name on it with me, because my credit was still shot from don't buy anyone a car at 19.
Yeah.
It's my PSA to the world.
Gotcha. So, and I ask a lot of this because as at least one of the videos on your website, and I think Mayor Battle, and then someone who's on your board of directors is kind of talking about, hey, Huntsville's growing and it's great, but at the same time, because it's growing, then that provides a lack of places for
Housing.
people, and housing for people, places to live. So then kind of going back to First Stop and the people that you encounter, are they just out of options? Like, is there not the ability, or is there an inability on their part to know, oh, you could get a room in this house, you could get a basement in, or I shouldn't say basement, we don't have a lot of basements in Alabama, but a different dwelling on that property in the back that might be cheaper. Like, how dire is it really, the supply of suitable housing at any cost? Because it sounds like you lived in some dumps, right? Some dives. And are even those scarce and hard to find?
I mean, even that, you see things going up. I was helping a friend look for a place to live, and he was looking for, a small 1-bedroom kind of apartment. And he found a teeny tiny place off Oakwood that he pays almost $1,000 a month for, in a quadplex. I mean, tiny.
Yeah.
I never paid that when I was renting before. So that just shows how different the market is. And
Yeah.
then there are so many of these places that even he's got a decently paying full-time job, had trouble qualifying for, because they want to see that you make triple the rent per month or quadruple the rent per month before they'll even let you apply.
Yeah.
That's
Let alone your credit.
yeah, that's a big barrier. So, I mean, it's hard out there.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have someone that, maybe they're working, but because we have a lot of people in the homeless community that are working in fast food.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that before I started working at First Stop. You go to Bojangles, you go to Jack's, you go to these places and Popeyes, and those people might be unhoused, and they're there working every day.
Wow.
And then going to First Stop to shower so that they can look presentable to go back to work, and they're walking and they're biking.
You know what? Let's I want to play a video. And this is I'm glad you brought this up. I think I have it ready to go. Yes, I do. And I think this is one of the most incredible services that someone could provide to someone that is unhoused.
Executive Director of First Stop, and we've been partnering the last year or so with Shower Up in assisting us to provide showers to the homeless community that we work with. Currently, we are renovating our facility, and during that time, we have been blessed to be able to use this Shower Up trailer during that process, and so we can continue to offer showers to our clients every day by being able to partner with Shower Up and use this amazing trailer that you see here.
Shower Up is a nonprofit that brings hygiene resources, personal care, and showers to those in our community. Shower Up is really simple. You need a shower, you can come to us and we'll provide you everything you need to take a shower and get clean. We'll hand you the towel, the washcloths, soap and shampoo, and then you'll be able to walk in this mobile shower unit behind us and have a shower, place you can get clean. It's got a lock so you can have privacy and take your time and just restore hope and restore dignity.
My experience with the people that come to First Stop to use Shower Up are these people are warm and friendly people that need a helping hand.
I was the first one to take the shower when it first got here, and it's been a blessing. Because usually before it got here, we was having to run all over town when we couldn't get one at First Stop.
Shower Up operates completely on a volunteer basis, so everything we're able to do is because volunteers come and help out. So from handing out a towel and a washcloth, running a sign-up list, even cleaning our showers so they're clean for the next guest, we rely on volunteers to be able to do that.
Monday through Friday, and we are here offering showers, and we are really looking for caring and compassionate members of our community that would like to volunteer their time to help out. The hours are 8:30 to 12:30. We'll take one day a week, as much time as somebody can give us. It's a simple process to volunteer. We provide all of the supplies that you need. Basically, you're helping to sign folks up, give them their hygiene supplies, and then we do just some light cleaning in between each person. We would love to have you join us here as a volunteer working in the Shower Up trailer here at First Stop.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the showers are really, really cool. And it's, it's something that we offered at our former facility, but, Taylor Reed, the owner of the Shower Up here in Huntsville, would bring the shower trailer in once a month just to supplement and provide extra showers. So we had more because, when we're seeing 100 people or more a day and we only have 2-3 showers, depending on the space, there's only so much time you have. So it's really cool.
So that mobile trailer will still be there even after you finish the new facility, and the new facility will have showers as well?
So the new facility will have showers. I'm sure that we'll have a similar arrangement with Shower Up where they'll kind of come to supplement, because that's what they were doing before.
Now, let me ask this question. She just went over how you can get involved volunteers-wise. Do you also have this through like Just Serve? Are you familiar with Just Serve?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's like a local, well, not local, I guess it's national, but it's one of those things that if I was interested in volunteering in any way, a soup kitchen, a Shower Up, and then First Stop would then make their information available to this justserve.org, and then people that are volunteers in the community that don't know what exists other than saying, oh, if I go to Just Serve, I can learn some opportunities to serve. That might be one way people that are familiar with that would find out if they didn't know, right, to come through First Stop. I wasn't sure. So, but that's still Monday through Friday. And if people are interested, do you have to be a certain age to participate in that?
We require that our volunteers be adults.
18 or over?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That makes sense. But as you were just talking about the fact that people are working in fast food, and that can be, I've worked in fast food, I've worked in restaurants, seafood restaurants, and it's like you need to take a shower, right, when you're done. It is a filthy experience. What a blessing, right? And an opportunity for those people to feel renewed, right? As they grind away and trying to figure out how to save enough money and find a place to live, but at least be able to shower each day and be ready to go.
Yeah, and to feel like a person and to feel respected in that way on just that very basic human level. It's really important that we give people that respect and that dignity.
Are the employers aware that I'm assuming that they're homeless when they put in their applications and such? Is there as part of the interview process, they have to talk through that? Does the employer call First Stop for a reference or just kind of a character check?
I'm not sure if that's something that they would know. That might be something that our case managers would be able to answer. But as far as, a phone number and a mailing address, they are able to use our phone number and our mailing address on an application because
Okay.
that's something very basic on any kind of an application.
Sure.
What is your address? And if you live in a tent, you don't have one.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that we're able to do. I'm not sure if that's something that they disclose or if that might dissuade people from hiring them.
Yeah. Yeah.
As bad as that sounds,
Sure.
realistically.
If that employer ends up seeing that, checks in on it or sees, oh, I've seen this address before. But in any case, hopefully they would at least take the step of contacting a case manager
Yeah.
or someone else and say, hey, can you tell me about this person? Right. Hey, they're a great reference. They're going to work hard. Don't cast judgment
Yeah.
right on this person. Can you tell me about do you have any stories of particular individuals? You don't have to give their names on those that have had the most effect on you, or some of your favorite clients that you've interacted with?
Yeah, we have a lot of really interesting people that come through the doors. From the success story perspective, it's nice to see people get to that point where they're getting into a home again. I had one lady that came through when I was working reception for case management, and she was being housed that day. She was getting her keys to her apartment in just like an hour, and she had like picked a song that she was going to play on her phone, this like twangy country ballad, and she's like, I'm going to play this song when I walk through the door for the first time, and she was so excited, and it was just the cutest, quirkiest thing to say, but she was so grateful and so
Yeah.
excited. We had a guy named Tom who allowed me to take some photos and do an interview. He worked casual labor with us for a while, which is kind of a job program we have where it allows you to build a job history and earn money while, doing things that we need, whether it's maintenance or facility work or things like that. So he was with us for a while. And when he finally got housed, one of the first things he brought up was about showers. He said, one, that it was so nice to be able to go into a place and shut a door, to have a door between him and the outside world, which is something, that you can really take for granted. And then he said that he took 3 showers that first day. He took like a cold shower, and he took a really hot shower, and then he took a warm shower just so he could have variety. And he's like, I stayed in there as long as I wanted, and no one was knocking on the door, and there was no time limit, and it was just great.
It's like Goldilocks.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And I just thought that was amazing. And that's something, again, that we don't think about. Like the kind of perspective that comes with this work is very, very different. My first, it was maybe a first few months in working there, we had our main building, and then the case management building was kind of a longer trailer in the back. And so I was working in the reception desk in that back trailer, and I didn't bring an umbrella that day, and it was pouring rain. And so I'm walking from the building to the second one. I was like, oh no, I'm going to get all wet. And then I sat there for a second, and I was like, I'm going to get wet?
Yeah.
I'm going to get wet. These people are walking through the rain to get breakfast today, but you're worried about the 40 feet.
Right.
And it humbles you. I mean, it was one of those moments that kind of knocks you in the center of the forehead, and you're like, wow, okay, this is what I need to be doing.
Tell me about like starting when you started full-time in September. Give me that first time where you had that experience at work where you're thinking to yourself, I love this job.
That's
I
hard.
am so glad that I'm here. I am so glad that all of my life experience has culminated into me being here to work with this individual or a family.
So that's hard because I have been in love with First Stop since the first day I started interning. It's a special place. And my work, and even from the beginning, my work is different. Before, I was doing more client interaction. I was handing out client vouchers and I was connecting them to case managers. But now my work is development. So that's, I call myself the herald of First Stop, and that I'm really passionate about it, and everyone I talk to gets to hear all about it, whether they like it or not.
Like the HERALD Herald, that kind of herald?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I talk about it. I'm kind of the face for it in the community, and going out and working these events and booths and putting together our annual dinner, our annual golf tournament. I do our social media, and then our grant writing. And honestly, this was not development work is not anything I'd ever heard of before. I didn't know what that meant. So when our new director came in, and she's amazing, she's like, if you've ever seen Parks and Recreation, she's like the Leslie Knope of the homeless world, just so positive and so high energy, and just is going to change the world and makes you want to change it too.
Right.
And she said, Jessica, I think you're underutilized in this role, and I would really like you to do development work. And I like the writing that you do in our social media, and I think that you can do more. And so she kind of trusted me in this thing that I didn't know how to do. And so in this specific role, 6 weeks after that, I threw our annual event last year, for 350 something people. I've never thrown a party for 350 plus people.
You're usually taking pictures at parties.
Yeah. So it was very, very different. And then earlier this year in February, I started grant writing. I had told her at some point that I really missed school. I chose this position over grad school, and I told her I missed school because I really missed writing research papers. And she was like, boy, do I have a job for you. And
now,
so,
is this for federal and state funding?
Mostly private and foundation, things through the community foundation or like companies and organizations in Huntsville, like if Boeing has something opening or anything like that. And so essentially I am writing papers all the time on why people should fund First Stop or what programs would be most helpful, and really explaining how it's a good fit. And I didn't know if it's hard to tell when you're writing all of these applications if it's effective until the first big ones start coming in. And so we got a big one in earlier this year towards our capital campaign, $105,000. And
Wow.
I was like, wow,
Good for you.
maybe I'm good at this. Maybe this is a way that I can help people. I love to write, and I can write about this place that I love. Like, what a good mix. So that was really cool.
Yeah. When I was just interviewing, I'll promote it tomorrow. I just released the episode with Josh Carey. He's the announcer, the play-by-play announcer that travels with the team and does all the TV announcing for the Trash Pandas. His mom died very quickly with COVID back in 2020. And so his mom dies, and it's like his birthday and his dad's birthday all within the span of days. But just before she passed, and he wasn't able to see her because it was COVID, so he wasn't even able to be by her side right when she passed. But and the sales staff, he's also a member of the sales staff for the Pandas, and he had just closed a big deal on some signage, right, a sponsorship deal, and it really was a big pick me up for the office, because not a lot of people were spending money on things during COVID. So it was a huge boost to the morale of the team, and he was able to talk with his mom about that, and basically say, your son's not just a good broadcaster and announcer. I'm kind of a good salesman too, and he was just so excited to be able to share that news with her before she passed, and something he didn't realize, that he had this kind of ability in him, right? That really helped him see, wow, okay, I can do different things, in life, and I'm good at different things. And it was just a cool moment when he was sharing that story. So I want to actually show the video that you're featured in, and I believe this is the Largest City, Biggest Heart.
That one just came out. Yeah.
Can you first talk a little bit about, before I show the clip that I want to show where you're featured in, talk about that campaign? What was the reason and the thought and the ideas behind Largest City, Biggest Heart?
So Largest City, Biggest Heart came about, that's our capital campaign. So that is, we wanted to let people know why we need this building, why we need this larger space for First Stop in Huntsville. And it's not it's not about a building. And part of really driving that home and letting people connect to it was bringing that pride of Huntsville and the fact that we are, like I said earlier, we are the largest city, but we're so much more than that. You know, we're this philanthropic, generous community. And, you know, I think that we can be better, and we can kind of set the standard of how we're taking care of people and taking care of our homeless community. And what Huntsville does a really good job of is, you know, shining. You know, people are looking to Huntsville, and we're setting examples in a lot of what we're doing. We're the best place to live. So what if we were also the city that's the best place that had taken care of these homeless challenges? What if Huntsville got to be famous for that?
Yeah.
And then it set the standard, and all of Alabama is trying to do what Huntsville did. And then Georgia's trying to do what Huntsville did. And all of a sudden, we are what the South is looking towards.
How aware are you of other regions there's huge issues with homelessness? Portland, Seattle. That's just naming a couple that come to mind, and I've seen it firsthand. I've experienced it. But are you very aware of other organizations like First Stop in other regions of the country to know kind of, as far as there's a benchmark and how you are performing in relation to other cities that provide similar services? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's something that's kind of difficult to gauge just because of the difficulty of being able to even accurately count your homeless community.
Yeah.
I mean, we have HUD, Housing and Urban Development, does a point-in-time count once a year that will give you kind of at least a snapshot of the size of the homeless community in your area, that all of these organizations and shelters and care organizations come together and they kind of count the homeless population on one day. Based on the city, that can be difficult from place to place. In some places, your homeless population might be more visible and might be easier to do a count. Some places might be a little more spread out. We have a pretty spread out homeless population in Huntsville, so sometimes getting that read is hard. So from a statistical standpoint, being able to do a side-by-side comparison showing trends is difficult. But I know that our former director, who is now our board president, he invited another organization, I can't remember the name because it was when I was interning, from Memphis that had done similar kind of work, and just another empower case management based project with the homeless community, and they'd done a really good job. And so just meeting with them, having them to our facility, going up there and seeing what we could do that's similar. I think they've tried to keep it fairly localized and how we're looking to other cities for examples, just because each area is so different in the way we interact, whether it's, you know, the police and city and everyone together.
This is most likely more a rhetorical question. You don't necessarily have to answer it, but I also think now of how likely are people, companies, individuals around the country, and if the region that you live in affects in any way your thoughts towards the homeless. And one thing I picked up on in some of the video clips on your website is what makes Huntsville special in part is probably a lot of the faith-based folks as well in organizations. That this is in the South, people are more inclined to go to church, and maybe even a church where they are giving some of their substance, right? Some of their money, not just their time and volunteering, but some of their money. And I just wonder, like, I'm just curious now as I have done research for this show and talking with you, how that might change regionally, right? What is someone's thoughts and opinions towards the homeless, and then are they going to be willing to go into their own pocket or their company's pockets to help to provide those services, right, to get those people back on their feet?
Yeah. And I think that's something that we're going to find difficulty with everywhere. I mean, we find that here. We have an amazing faith community, but there are plenty of companies and individuals that say, why is this my problem?
Yeah.
Why should I help? That kind of have that bootstraps mentality of, you know, if you can't pull yourself up on your own, you don't need help.
You know, it's interesting. I somewhat would like to relate your story of your family not so happy that you were pregnant, but then you have the baby and they see this grandchild or this great grandchild or this niece or nephew, whatever the relationship was to you and to your son. I now have a brother that's homeless, and we have done everything we can for him, and he has chosen he wants to be a drug addict, and he wants to live on the street, and he will commit crimes to get into jail because he has friends in jail. Mm-hmm. And that's just the life he now admits that he wants to live. Now, 10 years ago, my thoughts on homelessness may be different. Well, now I have a brother that is homeless and will be most likely the rest of his life. So it's interesting sometimes when people have opinions until it happens to them, mm-hmm. until it's their child, someone close to them, whatever it may be, where that's then where the wheels start to turn, right? And you're like, well, this is now hitting very close to home.
Yeah. I mean, it always feels like something that's not going to touch you. This idea of not me, this couldn't happen to me, not my family.
Right.
Like we're somehow exempt from anything bad happening, which we know is not the case.
Sure. All right. I want to play the clip
of
which you are featured in this. It's very exciting. And this was done by Activate?
It was done by Activate, and they were very, very gracious because I was incredibly nervous and fidgety, and it took a really long time.
Shout out to them. And they did my video.
They're awesome.
I hired Mantech, the company I work for. We hired them to do a promotional video for us, 30 seconds. We played it at the Trash Pandas game back in June. It was awesome. They came and did a couple shoots with me and my team. And then we subsequently have had some shorter videos created. So, yeah, Bill Nyland and his wife is on your board.
Terry, yeah.
Terry's on the board.
She's our accountant. Yeah, she's amazing.
And Russ, right? Mm-hmm. Russ is the, is his last name Edwards? I can't remember what Russ's last name is. Russ Edwards. He's the founder of Activate. And I just as one who appreciates production, this is really well done.
They do such a good job. They make us look good.
It's an exciting time to be in Huntsville. To be in the largest city in Alabama is an exciting place to be. Things are growing and changing. There's a lot of innovation happening in this city, more so probably now than ever.
I think the most exciting thing about being in Huntsville right now is the opportunity. I mean, you have an opportunity to do all kinds of things.
I like the growth, the progressiveness, the opportunities that citizens have to enjoy what I would consider a tremendous quality of life.
It is incredible to be in Huntsville now because it's growing, it's accommodating the younger population of the folks that are moving to town.
As we've grown, we have also grown to have the biggest heart. It's clear that we really care about our community. It's clear that we are concerned about growing intentionally and in a way that makes everyone's lives better.
So largest city, biggest heart means that not only are we the largest city, but we know that Huntsville is so much more than that. We are the most generous. We have an incredible philanthropic community. We have the support of a faith community and businesses and people that all want to come together and really create something special.
We already know and we see the generosity and the compassion within the city of Huntsville, and First Stop's been just blessed to have so many longtime supporters that just get behind what we do.
The great thing about this community is that people give back constantly. They give back with their time, they give back with their resources, they give back as volunteers.
This community is so giving. It's so pleasing to see people coming in on a daily basis, volunteering their time, their money, their treasure.
So the growth of a community, specifically the growth of Huntsville, is really almost creating this perfect storm, if you will, that we have more and more people coming into Huntsville, more businesses bringing more employers, more employees, and what's happening is we're running out of places for people to live. There isn't enough opportunities and housing available, especially affordable housing.
Growth has produced high rents and high mortgages. And frankly, there are a lot of folks that cannot afford the rents and the mortgages that come with living within the city of Huntsville. And it's forced a lot of people out of homes and out of permanent housing.
We're seeing it every day at First Stop, where a few years ago we may have had 60 folks come through our facility a day. We're now in the 140 a day category.
The city is growing. We know already that the homeless population exceeds our capacity.
We got to the point where we truly outgrew our current space. And to us, that really pointed out the need for a larger facility, expanded space, and more room for us to connect with partner agencies as well, so we could all be under one roof.
And that brings us to the dinner you just had, right?
Yeah.
So can you talk about that? Did it meet your expectations, exceed your expectations? Did you achieve the goal that you set?
It was great. It was nice to see such a full room. We had the big room at the Jackson Center. It was packed out. We had more than 300 people there, wall to wall. We had Judge Sybil Cleveland that was our keynote speaker, and she got a standing ovation. People cried. It blew my socks off. It was amazing. And then I had to follow that. It's like, I don't want to go up and talk.
Did she have her own experience with homelessness or in her family?
So she, we work with her a lot. So she has, in the court system, there are a lot of people in homelessness, in a state of homelessness, that go through the legal system, you know, small petty crimes and things like that, trespassing and drunken disorderly, things like that. And as you can imagine, if you're already unhoused, if you don't, you know, if you were sleeping in your car's impounded, or you're just, if you can imagine having a legal issue on top of that and then having to go take care of it, you have to make your court date, you have to make your appearances. There are the fees that go with that. Just trying to keep up with all of that and not go under at the same time is really overwhelming. So she actually has a deferral program that she does, where when somebody comes through her docket and they are unhoused, instead of sending them through the system and sending them to have jail time, she will refer them to one of our case managers. Our case managers go to the courts. She refers our clients directly. I misspoke. She refers these people directly to us as clients, and then they're required to spend time with the case manager, have meetings just like you would with a parole officer, have meetings, progress, and our case managers report back. And by that, they avoid having, you know, a legal record, and they're getting connected with assistance. They're essentially fast-tracked into our case management program, and it is amazing. It's just so incredible what she's doing for the community and what she's doing to step up and help. And
yeah,
it's really cool. And we thought that it was the perfect fit, just showing how, you know, for largest city, biggest heart, for talking about what's special about Huntsville. And here we have, you know, a judge in our very own city who is working within the justice system to help the homeless community. It's amazing in Huntsville.
As these pictures cycle through, I think there were only, I'm going to assume that a lot of people came up to you, wanted to take their picture with you. Some of them are on here. You're just taking a picture with a couple or an individual after the dinner. Did you notice, did a lot of people come up to you or those involved with First Stop and pledge support, or I need to do more, I had no idea, I didn't know what I thought about homelessness till I came to this dinner and gotten involved, and I want to get involved? Was there somewhat of an uptick in that?
So I would say that most of the people that come to our dinner are people that already are supporters of First Stop, or in some cases, there are, let's say, churches or supporters or board members will buy a table, and they might have, you know, 7 other people at their table who aren't as familiar with our mission. And so we did have people, I got a lot of emails the next day.
Gotcha.
That was really nice, saying that they appreciated the dinner, that it was very meaningful, that they connected to the video, that they didn't realize that we had such a growing homeless population.
Right.
So that was really cool to connect with. I know a lot of the people around the room at the dinners, because part of my work is I do all of our communication with our donors. So when we're sending out donor thank yous, when we, you know, go around, sometimes we'll visit people around Christmas time. And, you know, it's my job to make make the people that are helping us do our good.
Yeah.
You know, make them understand that they are valuable and that what they're contributing is an important thing.
I was very bummed. I was in Las Vegas when there was that dinner.
I
was at
know.
Oracle Cloud World, and then of course I came home and suffered second-degree burns to my leg, and and here I just feel bad because I really wanted to go. Now that I've met, Russ and Bill through Activate, and then Morgan Vic was on my episode 3, and we highlighted First Stop. And in fact, I should have at least brought a couple clips from that episode we could have played, but I would refer people back to that as well, where she went through some of the clients that Activate had. And the First Stop thing really, I haven't stopped thinking about it since then. Just the great work that they did and helping you with your website and things like that.
Yeah.
All right, you want to transition to some fun stuff?
Sure.
All right, we're gonna play the Pick Six,
Okay.
and what that means is based on I always do a little bit of a Q&A, basic Q&A with guests, and so you have shared with me some bucket list items. You've shared with me some things that you have done. We certainly have talked about your photography, but you also like to bake and garden and things like that. Anything in particular in the garden that you specialize in?
I have a vegetable garden. I've got a pretty wild blackberry bush right now. But I'd say my garden is maybe a 20 foot by 15 foot, or maybe 30 foot by 15 foot.
Okay.
As I think as we all did during 2020, I got really ambitious with my gardening. This year did not quite measure up, but that was a fun one. I'm really crazy about indoor plants. I've got more than 100.
Really?
Yeah, it's like a stepping into the movie Jumanji a little bit when you enter my house.
Are some of them produce just a lot of aroma, and it's kind of
No.
just, you want to be able to smell the different...
No, just lots of different kinds of leaves. I get really nerdy about all the different color varieties. But I get excited by them. So I have a lot of plants in every room.
So do you have a membership at the Botanical Gardens?
I do not.
You should.
Mostly because I don't have a lot of free time.
Okay.
I work almost every weekend, photographing weddings. I work at First Stop during the week. I take my son to Scouts, and we have all our activities.
Yeah.
And so no, I go to Botanical Gardens a lot to photograph weddings and engagements, but I can't remember the last time I went there. Oh no, I go there once a year for Galaxy of Lights for fun.
When is that?
That's in this year the walking nights. It's November and December.
Did we just miss that last year? Probably. We moved in at Christmas Eve.
Oh my gosh, you're in for a treat. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I mean, it's almost been a full calendar year, so we're just still learning what happens in October and what happens in November and what happens in December.
It's the thing to do. The walking nights one is especially the best because you can get hot chocolate and they'll have Baileys.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
My son did a internship or worked at the Botanical Gardens this past summer, and then it turned into when we had guests come into town. So we have like this little routine now where, we're members at the Space and Rocket Center.
Oh, yeah.
So if somebody hasn't gone, we go there. And then, of course, it's not too far to the Botanical Gardens. And we have a membership there. And we rent the golf cart tour.
Oh, yeah.
So you can fit, 4 passengers or 5 passengers on the golf cart. And we take that tour for an hour, which is nice because you can see a lot of the ground, especially if it's hot.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful. And it's just right there.
It's so pretty.
Crazy. All right, here we go. So we are going to play the Pick Six, and here is the first picture. So I want you to, in this case, this is somewhere you've been.
It's the Tetons.
This is the Tetons. So it doesn't have to be brief, but just tell me about your experience. What took you to the Tetons and what you did when you were there, and any sort of advice you might want to pass on to our viewers or listeners on things to do in Yellowstone.
So we went last September. It was actually a big family trip. My mom planned a few things before she moved overseas. So it was me and the guy I was dating at the time, my son, my mom and her husband, my uncle and his wife, and my brother and his girlfriend. So a big group. We got a big Airbnb. We went up there. We stayed on one side of the Tetons, drove up to Yellowstone a couple days.
So time out. What's harder, organizing a 352-person dinner or a family trip and all the logistics to Yellowstone?
So I didn't organize any of it. My mom set it all up. I just
Okay.
had to get my flight. So that was so easy.
All right. Fair enough.
I get really lucky when she plans trips.
Okay.
We actually rafted around that river bend right there. We took a rafting trip, and the aspen were all turning. Very, very pretty. We went hiking. I took a lot of wildlife photos. I convinced my mother to do a via ferrata with me on the mountains in Jackson Hole, which it means Iron Road or Iron Way in Italian. And they put these little spike handholds in the side of a mountain. And that's how World War II soldiers went around the Dolomite Mountains. So now you can just climb it for fun. And they have these all over the world. And, you know, you're strapped in, it's safe, but you're hanging on the side of a cliff. So I thought it was awesome. My mom is a really interesting person. She's terrified of heights, even though she's skydive certified.
Wow.
The first time we went skydiving, we went together. So she's skydive certified, but she does not like heights. So she's clinging to the side of this mountain and cursing and not pleased.
How long on the Via Ferrata did you get? Was it like hundreds of yards? You know, talking like half a mile?
It was probably 3 or 4 hours of climbing.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
awesome.
Okay.
It was the best. I would do it every day. I was so sore though.
Wow.
It
That's
was awesome.
Anything else from the Tetons?
Just that I would go back. It's the best. I like Tetons better than Yellowstone.
Okay.
It was prettier.
Okay. And here is the Amalfi Coast
Ah, yes.
of Italy. Mm-hmm. Does it really look this good?
Yes. It's crazy. It looks like it's not even real. It was the most picturesque place I have ever been in my life.
And what took you there?
It was on my honeymoon, so it was right after I got married, and I planned us an 8-day trip. So we flew into Florence, stayed around Tuscany, you know, rented a car, which was an interesting experience.
It was like a tiny little sardine car.
Yeah, driving overseas, and Italian drivers are crazy. And you know, driving down, going to Rome. Staying in a villa there and just really exploring our way all the way down Italy. It was beautiful.
Okay. And I think I might actually, you know, this is so picturesque that I don't think I'm the type of person I can't just look at one picture. So I'm going to give you 2 pictures.
Yeah, it really does
Accurate?
look like that. Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy.
I'm convinced that they've touched up this photo. But,
No.
And I wonder what time. Is this like May, you think? When's the ideal time to go to Italy?
I went in October. And it was wonderful.
Okay. All right, next one. Now, do you recognize that?
Skiing?
In
I can't tell you where it is.
Gatlinburg.
Gatlinburg?
That's where you go every year, right?
Yeah,
You said you go to Gatlinburg or somewhere in North Carolina.
Yeah, I've been Asheville and then this other little locals place that I can't remember the name of. But yeah, love to ski. Taught my son to ski.
No snowboarding?
No.
I'll forgive you.
I'm sure he will eventually, but I love skiing. I don't think I'd be good at snowboarding.
When did you start skiing?
So we skied up in Kansas, because
Really?
not all of Kansas is flat.
True.
We lived in the northeast corner where it has some hills. And so I was maybe 1st or 2nd grade when I started to ski.
Okay. Yeah, you're really tripping me out talking about like mountains in North Carolina and or even Gatlinburg, Tennessee, or Kansas as places. When I lived in Virginia, we go up to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And you know, decent. I had to make all the snow. I'm assuming they had
Yeah.
to make all the snow, right? But hey, if you can find a hill anywhere,
Yeah.
and if you're a diehard skier or snowboarder, bring it on.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, ready for the next one? By the way, are you going to go this year?
Probably. Well, I'll go. We normally go around February.
Good choice. Okay, here's a Via Ferrata.
Yes.
Do you know where this is?
Is that Mount Huashan?
Yes.
Yes, that's my dream one. That's my bucket list.
I mean,
Number
that
one.
just looks number one.
Magical?
You were talking about what in the war?
Uh-huh.
They built this.
Well, no, that's where the word Via Ferrata comes from. Is the little it's actually the little iron handholds that go in the side
Okay.
of a mountain. This little plank walk is just a bonus. And what's cool about this one, some of them are more dangerous than others. You're clipped in on a cable, and you can kind of see where it's drilled in, that there's a spot where you have to switch over the cable. And then some areas where you can't be clipped in at all, and you just have to climb up little narrow areas and stuff. So challenging, a little bit thrilling.
Yeah.
I can't wait to do more.
And-
it just looks awesome.
I mean, that looks like, I don't know, 2,000 or 3,000 feet down.
Oh, who knows? Yeah, it's great.
And here's another shot. Just here's just your local tourists, right? Wearing their summer clothes and doing the Via Ferrata.
Yeah. And what's cool about these is most of them are one way. So you see these people going, well, then there'll be other people crossing by on the way back. So you have to go around them.
I just worry or wonder, how often do they check to make sure these things are still drilled into the rock and securely, right? Nothing's coming undone, that it's safe. It's going to be my luck, right? When I go on one of these, that there'll be a problem or an incident.
I mean, part of the thrill of it is not knowing completely if it's safe. There's always a risk in anything, like skydiving.
That's
You
true.
could have a malfunction with what
Yeah.
you're doing. Same thing with hang gliding and anything else. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That looks awesome, by the way. Yes. And here's something else you want to do.
Yep. That's paragliding. Is that in La Jolla?
Yes.
Oh, that's the exact one. So La Jolla is near San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to go to San Diego when I was a kid and go hang out in the tide pools and, just mess around in the rocks and look for little sea creatures. And you'd see these people with parachutes just step off the side of the cliff, just walk right off, and they sail straight up and just glide over the ocean. And I thought, okay, yeah, I'm going to do that. And it just looks like so much fun and so relaxing.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any friends or family who did it? Mm-mm. So therefore, it just was something that just didn't happen. You were too young?
Yeah, no, I was super, super young. And we were actually going to do it this summer, but we ran out of time. We went back and had 2 weeks in California to finally have a funeral for my grandmother.
Okay.
But my son and I kind of went on a bucket list of stuff that my grandma used to like to do, so we could kind of recreate all our fun memories. So we ran out of time to run down and do this, but
so they can
next time.
Control it such that you kind of just going back and forth in an area, and then you just, when you feel like coming down, you just come down.
Mm-hmm. Same way controlling a regular parachute. You're just kind of steering it and schlooping around on the wind.
All right, and I think I have just one more of the. No, now we're getting to scuba diving.
Yay!
And look, there's a million pictures I could have shown here, but is there anything in particular that is it coming up to the wildlife, like the sea life, that interests you? Is it more getting down into like reefs and coral?
So it's both. I've always really liked snorkeling, and I just want to go deeper underwater and hang out longer. There's only so long you can hold your breath.
Yeah.
To hang out with everything. My mom is dive certified, so is her husband. They've been doing that for a long time. And I just feel like there are so many vacation places that you can make the most of a lot more if you have the ability to dive.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to get away from especially if you go like on a cruise and there's a snorkeling adventure, and then you're snorkeling with 2,000 other people.
And you're just going to see more.
Right. And a little bit more of choose your own adventure. And I think I have one more. Yeah.
It's just so pretty.
We've it was summer of 21. Yeah, before we moved here, we went to the Florida Keys, and we made the mistake. We didn't know how many people in our family have queasy stomachs when it comes to, getting seasick.
Oh no!
So we pay all this money and we go to just do like fishing, like a fishing charter. And within 20 minutes, everyone's sick except for me and my youngest boy. I have 3 kids and my wife, and it was like, I have 4 kids, but only one of them did not get sick. And I didn't get sick. And so it was kind of this, why did we do this? We basically just paid a bunch of money for our family to throw up all over the boat, right, as we made our way out to fish. And then if we went snorkeling, which was better because it was more, it was in calmer. We actually went on a catamaran when we went
Those can
snorkeling.
pitch around too.
It actually was a lot more stable. when we went on the fishing boat, it was just up and down for, a good 90 minutes going out to where we were going to fish. And my kids were just puking everywhere. But the catamaran was much more stable. And then they really enjoyed snorkeling.
That's
Jessica, any final thoughts?
I don't think so. Not off the top of my head.
It's been awesome having you.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. We need to talk about the Committee of 100.
Oh, yeah.
And as a young professional, what led you to apply to that? Because I think I just saw something where applications just, that deadline just passed for those who were interested. There's a finite number, right? A limited number of those that can be in the program at a certain time. You have to be under the age of 35, I believe. Is that right? To be a young professional?
40.
40? Okay.
I like that.
I'm going to turn 47 soon, so I'm well past that. Talk to me about how you came to know of the Committee of 100 and this young professional program. And then let's talk about some of the projects you're involved with.
One of my friends, Alex Hendricks, who works with the Venue Group and is a local musician, she is actually one of the YP members. And she had talked about it and posted about it a few times. And I thought it sounded really interesting. This is a group that they're involved in the community, whether it's, local politics, high quality public education, and, the local economy. So that's really all aspects of a local community. And part of what was important to me when I joined First Stop and was searching for something to be a part of was how can I be more connected to my surroundings and the people in the city that I live in. And so this seemed like a really good way. Doing development work, part of what this is being able to make connections with people, and you have to know people in order to let them know about First Stop. So just joining different groups and different networking opportunities. So it seemed like a good marriage of those. The application process was crazy. It was like a grad school application. There were
Really?
a lot of questions, like essay questions that I'm thinking out multiple paragraph answers. I think I had to submit my transcripts. I don't remember. I know I had to put in a resume. I had to have multiple letters of recommendation. I was very surprised when I was chosen. I was like, what? Me? For real?
That made you feel good, though, when you got selected.
It did. I was really, really excited because, they choose a lot of, I guess I'm kind of an odd professional because on one hand, I've been a wedding photographer for a long time. So that's more on the artistic side. And then the other side is nonprofit world, which is not glamorous. So I'm not in a high-powered executive suite. So I thought maybe that would work in my favor. Maybe they'd be like, oh, this is an interesting mix. Maybe she can add some perspective. I was hoping. I'm grateful to be a part of it. It's been really, really neat. Just seeing the local election process. It's a nonpartisan group, which is really cool to see how that works and how all these minds come together to work in the favor of our city and not any one specific agenda. I think that's really important and it's been really valuable. So it's been neat just learning. I got to be a part of, the YPs are a part of something called Rock the Vote, which is something that happens big. It was a big community event at Stove House where we got to register people to vote and, or there was a table to register people to vote. We were guiding people that way and helping people meet candidates and talk to candidates. And I was one of the people, my role was to greet people and to connect them to the people who were running for office. So, the first thing we did was walk around and talk to the people running for office so you know who you're sending them to. Like, oh, he's great. He drove up from Mobile earlier today. He's really nice. Go talk to him and kind of get a sense of what people are looking for, what offices they're looking to explore.
This was like as they went to cast their vote?
No. So this is beforehand. It's just a
Gotcha.
kind of a way for people to connect because there are so many, especially with more localized elections. We all know who's running for president and vice president and generally Senate. But there are so many. Yeah, I mean, even with the Senate, I'd say with Senate, a lot of people don't know the names on the docket most of the time. Maybe
I always feel
governor.
like an idiot when you go up there and there's some. Do you are you okay with issuing a new bond referendum for $5 million for this? You're like, I don't even know about that.
Yeah.
You know?
And so we're guiding people on where they can go see sample ballots and, how to look up that information. So you can get that ahead of time. And that's just really helpful, especially with young people. And it was just...
Well, that's a lot, even though it's not the voting day, it's at least more refreshing and a better experience than usually you go in and just kind of attacked, right? With the flyers that come from either party.
Yep.
And it's nice to basically go meet someone like you who's like, hey, what is your affiliation? Oh, you're a Republican? Great. You might want to talk to these people. Oh, Democrat? Great. You might want to talk to these people.
Yeah.
That type of thing. Just to help them become educated.
Yeah.
And hear the sides and hear the issues, right? And or become more acquainted with those that are, running for their party.
Yeah, and who they are as people, and to be able to connect, because these are people that will be representing us. So it's important to be able to connect and see what they stand for and who they are.
Yeah. So that sounds like that's been a very enriching and enlightening activity. Any other highlights as a young professional, other than I'm assuming it's awesome just networking and getting to know the others? I know like Sarah Smith is the one other young professional I know other than you.
Mm-hmm. We were at that Trash Pandas game together.
That's right. Shout out to Sarah.
Yeah, and she actually she attended. She was at my table at the First Stop dinner, and then we attended the Girls Inc. sneaker gala. Last week and sat at the same table, which was awesome.
That's cool.
And saw Serena Williams speak, which was cool.
Yeah, that's a big draw.
Yeah, it is.
There.
Like, how did they do that? First Stop needs our own Serena Williams.
Did she get a standing ovation?
She got everything. She was amazing.
Everybody was just in awe.
Yeah,
probably.
It was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
It was pretty cool.
So, did you say you belong to other organizations too, or involved with other causes?
I have tried to hone it down. I was in Rotaract for a bit. I was doing some other smaller networking groups, but I've kind of honed back on that because I have a finite amount of time.
Sure.
And as it turns out, grant writing takes up a lot of it.
Yeah.
So I'm mostly doing my photography work, the committee, and then First Stop. I am involved in the chamber on behalf of First Stop.
Cool.
And then there's an organization called AFP, which is a fundraising group, and we can all just kind of talk to each other on how we do this and grant writing and working in the nonprofit world. So it's like learning.
That's cool. Good. That's just great experience.
Yeah.
And awesome for, can't remember the name of the lady that saw that, or when you were like, hey, yeah, I kind of miss school. And she's like, I got something for you. Because that's important. You got to keep those skills sharp. Right?
Yeah. And it's nice because it's like there's this dorky superpower of being able to be awesome. I was so good at writing papers. Oh man. I mean, it was bad because I could crank them out the night of and they would be awesome. But I was just good at it. And I didn't think that was a skill that would translate anywhere to the real world. So it's neat to be in my 30s and then, wow, maybe there's a place for this. And, I'm not one of our case managers. I'm not one of the people that works with clients on the daily basis, but maybe I can help them. Maybe I can help this organization get the funding that we can continue doing that good.
Yeah.
And if I can be any part of that, great.
You're doing good work, Jessica.
I try.
And I really appreciate you doing a deep dive and sharing your story. And I'm just, it's just great to hear that someone like you is on the front lines working with those that need assistance, right? And have been through or are going through what you've gone through, right? And you can lend that empathetic hand to them and expose them to the organization. It's just awesome. So I encourage anybody and everybody to check it out, get involved. I want our family to go and volunteer. Well, I guess those that are adults age. We have how many? We have that. We have 2. So we have 2 kids that are adult age, and when they're here, we'll take them over and help out in any way we can.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Jessica Brown, it's been a pleasure, and
Thank you.
all the best to you. And maybe we'll have you on the program again soon. But thank you for being episode 35.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Have a good one.